Before we go on, I did want to talk about a call that happened last week and just kind of put some clarity around it because it was a great illustration of something, right? So during a call that was earlier in the show, we talked a little bit about Gnostic atheism or Gnostic theism, Gnosticism versus agnosticism. And one of the things I said was that, we understand knowledge as a subset of belief. And to me, it's it's like a fuzzy line, right? When do you think you know something? When do you think you believe something? And believing it to me is that you accept it as true. So is that, how significant is that line and where do you cross it? And it's just, it's not when a person feels comfortable saying they know something, it depends on a context sometimes, right? So one of the things that happened is after I had talked to somebody about, having these honest calls and how, I really appreciate like a conversation more than somebody who calls in with this script and I'm supposed to say something and then, and then I got a script call and it was so interesting because it just went back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and then I just finally hung up. And it's just like, how many times are we going to have this same exchange? And what the person was asking me was, do I believe that fairies exist, or do I believe there's no such thing as fairies?
Right.
And they were equating that to, well, what about your view on God?
Yeah.
And I actually have used those things in conjunction trying to explain my atheism. So when people say to me, are you Gnostic or agnostic? Because that knowledge line is so subjective to people, some people have different opinions on what that means. And if I say, yeah, I think I know it, then we'll start talking and then I'll say something about it and they'll say, well, I don't think that's claiming to know. And it's like, okay, well, so what I try to do is just give people an understanding of where I stand on it. And then I let them tell me. You tell me if I'm a Gnostic atheist or an agnostic atheist based on how you think of knowledge, right? Because I'm just going to tell you how I view it. You can label it how you want. And so what I said was, I do accept that there's no such thing as gods, just like there's no such thing as fairies. And I accept those things for the same reasons, right? And to the same degree. And the reason I put it that way is because sometimes when I start to have a discussion and somebody wants to get into, well, logically you cannot prove that there is no God. Well, logically I cannot prove there are no fairies. Like, I get that, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, if I was confronted with a fairy or a God, I would totally be like, oh, hey, I was wrong. And to some people, that understanding about something where you're willing to say, I accept that from that logical framework, I could be wrong, they'll say that's not knowledge. And that's fine. Okay, then to you, I'm an agnostic atheist, right? But to somebody else who says, no, you're claiming that you know because, that's what that means. And it's like, okay, then I'm claiming that I know. And if you don't accept fairies as real, then you understand all the same reasons and the degree to which I feel that way about your God.
Right.
And we can either talk about that or we don't have to talk about that. But if you understand your position on fairies and you're saying that's knowledge, you can't demonstrate it to me either, but you're accepting it, And so my point partly to him at one point was to try to explain that my position on this is consistent, right? I'm saying that I do draw that parallel. I don't deny to him that I think I'm not saying I think one way about one thing and the other way about another thing. I'm just simply saying whether or not it's knowledge depends on who the person I'm talking to thinks of knowledge versus belief, and if they draw a line or don't draw a line or where they draw that line. And so I'm happy to, say, yeah, to me, that's parallel. And if that's what you want me to say, I'll say it. It's parallel for me in my head. The question to me then is, as a Christian, how are these things not parallel to you? Like why do you see one as different? And so we never really got that far because I just kept getting re-asked. But do you know? Do you know? And I was like, I'm telling you my perspective on it. And I'm not denying whatever it is you want to label it. I'm just saying this is how I'm viewing it. I'm being as honest as I can be. But the thing is, they just kept asking and asking. And the reason a person keeps asking something is because they're not getting a satisfying answer.
Right.
But it's the only honest answer I can give, right? And so I can't help a person who wants a different answer if the answer I'm giving is honest and it's not the answer they want. And so just kind of an FYI, that's what a call when someone calls with a script in their head, that's what it looks like.
Yeah.
Right? It's just they're getting really, if I answered it incorrectly or in a way that made him think I didn't understand the question, he would have reframed the question, right? Then you would say, oh, no, wait, you misunderstood me, and here's what I was trying to say, and I think you didn't understand. And that's a whole other issue, and that does happen in an honest conversation where somebody might reframe and re-ask something. But this is not that. This is just asking again and again because you're just trying to make me say a thing.
It's the Ray Comfort, have you ever told a lie? And when you say, well, yes, of course, and doesn't that make you a liar?
When I'm telling a lie, yep.
But
not when I'm telling the truth.
Yeah, so yeah, you didn't follow the script, and so
yeah,
he got frustrated.
And that's what a dishonest call looked
Yeah.
like. So just FYI. And with that.